And it leads to the next question. I was saying, over the last 40 years or so that you've been playing, I was reading someplace that you said you thought you had written in excess of 1,000 songs.
As of right now, see, I keep all of my songs on iTunes. I don't have anything on my iTunes except my songs. And when I write them, I then go and record them over at my pal at Pat Tomic's house, 3 and 4 and 5 at a time. Yeah, he does have a good studio. And iTunes, you can look at the number. If you have to add up a few numbers, but right now it's actually 1,400 and some.
1,400 songs, man. What a great thing. Wow.
So I'll tell you something, and this was kind of start off as a brag and end up as like a shame on me. But I have there's a good friend who's actually a nationally known music critic who knows my work. And he said, Howard, he says, you have maybe 10, 12 great songs. You have more great songs than some of the people, many of the people who are nationally known. And for about 2 or 3 days, I was kind of floating on there. And then I said, wait a second, 12 songs out of 14, out of 1,400.
My batting average.
Yeah.
Damn, that was so professional. I almost feel like I'm on a set. We'd like to welcome Howard Iceberg, a Kansas City legend, to the pit.
Thank you, Will. Good to be back at Prospero's.
It's always good to have you, man. It's been a few times.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a bookstore. I'm going to ask you my leading question. What are you reading?
Oh, boy. I always have several books right by my side at the time according to my mood, which is kind of problematical because then I have to start over again after I forgot what I've been reading. But I've been reading the new that Cormac McCarthy.
Both of them?
Yeah, I got both of them. I'm halfway through the one. And a book I really enjoyed recently, Rules of Civility,
Boy.
Amor Towles. God,
Loved
that's
it.
I thought that was a fantastic book.
I loved it. Somebody asked me what that was about, and I said it's like Fitzgerald's The Gatsby, except I like the characters.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. A friend of mine who is a serious New Yorker, loves anything that celebrates New York, sent it to me, and I thought it was fantastic. It also, to me, it's also about looking back. Mm-hmm. Anyone who's looking back at the past and how things roller coastered up and down and from left to right and so forth.
On the story, I mean, without giving away anything,
Yeah.
It's those pictures at the beginning.
Yeah.
Being startled by a face from 30 years ago.
Exactly.
Wondering where it went. Well, that's that. Well, I mean, that's a leading question. How do you pull any inspiration for your artistic work from what you're reading?
Absolutely. As a songwriter, I know a lot of other people, at least around here, who are songwriters. And one thing I see, especially in new people starting out, is they think if you're writing songs, what you should do is just concentrate and listen to all the other songwriters, Hank Williams and Bob Dylan and whoever, Robert Burns, but to me, I look at songwriting as really a hybrid art, both music and lyrics, of course. And so my music, I study all the songwriters and study all the music. I listen to everything from Mozart to Ellington to, you know, Dylan to Tom Petty, whoever.
Mhm.
But I read a lot, and to me, if you want to write good songs, write songs lyrically, you need to expose yourself to good writing. And there are some good writers in songwriting, but there are more good writers who write in books and stuff like that. So yeah, I draw a lot of my inspiration uh, from books, and sometimes it's just, just read something that's just very smart and acute and right on point, and that'll send you into a song.
When it's, two things. As I've gotten older, I don't travel like I used to as a
Mm-hmm.
young man, and
Mm-hmm.
having new stuff,
Mm-hmm.
new inspiration, new
Yeah.
input to pull stuff out.
Yeah.
I read to do it, and
Yeah.
like I just did a poem based on a article I read in the Guardian about moon dust.
Uh-huh. Cool.
It's like,
Mm-hmm.
how does that trigger
Yeah.
something creative? But
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to jump ahead to a question: Is that so? Which comes first for you, the music or the lyrics?
Um, Actually, I've written so many songs that I I don't have any one process, and in fact, I think that if you really want to expand as a songwriter, I've written songs from the music first, where I come up with a riff, and then that'll lead me to a first phrase or something. I've written songs based on a lyric, either something that I thought was a good line or about a subject matter. But I've written songs based on a drum beat. I've written songs based on a movie I saw. I've written songs based on something someone said or something they didn't say. I think that maybe a mistake of some new songwriters, aspiring songwriters, is to always try to sit down and knit their brow and play some music and see what comes of it. I think you should be open to just keep your mind empty and let stuff pour in. There's plenty down there in the stew
Yep.
to let stuff come in or stuff go out.
When you write, you're primarily a guitar player. Do you play anything else?
Uh,
Do you write on anything
I'm
else?
not even much of a guitar player. I'm mostly a songwriter, but I also play a little piano, just enough that I can bang out some chords. And I think most musicians agree that who most musicians who write would say that different instruments, especially if they're quite different, like the piano and guitar, you'll play things differently, or you'll come up with different stuff. So sometimes I use the keyboards to change it up a little.
Back in the day when I used to write music and
Mm.
was doing stuff, is that I always found keyboards is so linear. It's
Mm-hmm.
you just count to 12 again, and it's so. But when I was doing guitar, it's
Mm-hmm.
so stacked, and it's such a different process of.
Yeah, but for me, because I have created this sort of a hybrid instrument, it happens that my guitar is very linear, and I play it flat, uh, and it is set up. It's tuned differently and set up differently than a guitar. Although it starts out as a guitar. Then I used to take it to Mass Street Music, and they would change the bridge and change the strings and all, or the number of the configuration, uh, so that when I play it, um, it's almost like a piano keyboard, and I only have to, on my particular instrument, I only have to have two or three formations that for my hands that stay the same no matter what key it is. So I don't have to learn how to play differently to play in the key of F or the key of G minor or whatever.
Mm.
It's the same all the way through for me, and it's taken a lot of the struggle, it's made it so that it is more, I guess, what you call linear or mathematical. I kind of think of it as almost mathematical, and it makes it easier for me to come up with stuff that's based on what I would call the overall structure, the overall relationship within a particular key of the chords for songwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what we talk about, the 1, 4, and 5, the three main chords, which say in A would be A, D, and E, but then you add the relative minor, which it would be F sharp minor there. Then you learn how to play the B minor, and you keep on. When you're starting off, if you keep on adding to the three main chords, then it gives you a wider palette. And I can do that because of my particular instrument. I can do that in any key, which helps write songs differently, because then if I've written a song in A and I'm trying to sing in A, in a particular song, because of my vocal range, which is limited, then if I change and use the same chords but go to E, then because of my vocal range, I can, for the same set of chords, I can come up with a whole different melody and again expand the possibilities.
Well, it's fun. I was watching some old videos before sitting down to talk with you here, and that was one of the things I was going to talk about. How, because I'm assuming you do it in an open tuning of some kind, and you play the way you play it is almost like a lap steel.
It is actually what it is when I never was a musician growing up, and when I never was a musician all through college even, and then when I went to law school, of course, was making me crazy like it would make anyone crazy. So I started hanging out at a place called the Fool Killer, and I learned to play the mountain dulcimer there, which is a lap instrument. And but I didn't get enough. Once I started actually writing my own songs, I didn't get enough volume or enough flexibility. The mountain dulcimer, you have to retune it with tuning pegs every time you want to change keys. So I started getting guitars. I started tuning them like dulcimers. So my guitar is actually tuned like a combination of a mountain dulcimer and a mandolin or six-string guitar. And I had to sit down with a dulcimer chord book and a guitar chord book and harmonize. Yeah. So that's how I do it.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I still remember as a kid when I was sitting in my parents' house and I got my guitar out, and "Some Girls" by the Stones came out, and I sat down and first time I really started trying to learn other people's music by ear. It's like everything's EAG and D, occasional D, or something. It's like it was so fun how songwriting and virtuosity really aren't akin spirits in a lot of ways. It's two different disciplines. But,
Yeah.
well, it leads to the next question. I was thinking, over the last 40 years or so that you've been playing, I was reading someplace that you said you thought you had written in excess of 1,000 songs.
As of right now, see, I keep all of my songs on iTunes. I don't have anything on my iTunes except my songs. And when I write them, I then go and record them over at my pal at Pat Tomic's house, 3 and 4 and 5 at a time. Yeah, he does have a good studio. And iTunes, you can look at the number. If you have to add up a few numbers, but right now it's actually 1,400 and some.
1,400 songs, man. What a great thing. Wow.
So I'll tell you something, and this was kind of start off as a brag and end up as like a shame on me. But I have there's a good friend who's actually nationally known music critic who knows my work. And he said, Howard, he says, you have maybe 10, 12 great songs. You have more great songs than some of the people, many of the people who are nationally known. And for about 2 or 3 days, I was kind of floating on there. And then I said, wait a second, 12 songs out of 14, out of 1,400.
My batting average.
Yeah. Well, I think you have to write a lot of bad and mediocre songs to maybe squeeze out a few good ones. But I think one of the things is just, I do it because that's what I like to do. I feel like if I was a painter, I'd be someone who wake up every morning and maybe go outside and paint a little tree or something every day. And that's kind of the way I approach songwriting, is I write stuff that pleases me, or almost like sitting down with a crossword puzzle, because there's always little things to work out, like in any art form, like in writing or sculpture or whatever.
So how long does it take you to write a song?
It depends, but the best songs come pretty quickly. Some of them bounce around. Some of them I've had in mind for maybe a long time, a phrase but most of them I'm going to get the heart of it done within a half an hour to an hour, and then over the next 2 or 3 days, I'm going to fix up a little thing here.
Work the kinks out.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you said so your process involves, you record them pretty quickly. Now, I've listened to, I'm trying to think, probably a dozen albums by your CDs over the years. And, how do you choose which ones you're going to put on CD and select? And obviously, we now know what you do with the rest of them. You've archived them, but
yeah, the ones I like the best, but sometimes I don't. When I was putting out CDs, which I haven't done in a while, I would, unlike some people who want to say, okay, I'm putting out either I'm a cowboy songwriter and I'm going to have all cowboy tunes, whatever, or I'm a blues musician or whatever. I like to put out a variety of stuff on each CD, and they doesn't necessarily cohere, but so sometimes some of the best songs get left off because I've already done one on the same subject. So I got a lot of pretty good stuff sitting around that no one's heard yet.
Where do people who are going to be curious, because of the thousands of people that view this podcast, and where are they going to be able to go find your stuff? You SoundCloud, Bandcamp?
I have some stuff on Bandcamp, and I have some stuff on Spotify. And
is that just under your name, or is it under the
name
Titanics?
Howard Iceberg and the Titanics, most of it. And YouTube, there's stuff on YouTube. Different people posted, and a lot of the stuff is just, it was there for a while and now it's gone. It was on a cassette or a CD.
How dada.
Yeah. Well, really, partly when I think about music and, whether any of this has any staying power or whatever, I kind of think, who really has staying power? Yep. Shakespeare, Yep. So I think part of the thing is just if you can do something to entertain a few of your friends or
yourself,
fans and yourself at your point in time, then I feel lucky to have been able to do that.
'Tis a lucky thing to get to do what you want to do artistically. I remember it's a quote by Ani DeFranco. I refer to it often. She's talking about, she remembers the days when a record was actually a record of people making music in a room. You turn the mic on and there it went. And at the end of that, we now had John Lee Hooker.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, what do you think makes a good song?
Boy, there's so many different kinds of good songs. But one thing I think that I feel for my best songs is there's enough certainty in there that you can get a feel even for an emotion that's being portrayed or an idea or something. But there's enough ambiguity that different people can read it according to themselves.
Great idea.
You know, like I know that you know someone I think famous said a great novel is a mirror or is like a mirror. In other words, it may be about some whole other place and time and plot, but you can bring something you can identify. Oh yeah, I know how they feel. You know, I wrote a song just recently where, if I can think of what I said, oh yeah, something about you wouldn't know by seeing us just how hard we tried. And I was playing it for someone, and she said, "That's how I feel," you know. And I was thinking of something totally different than what she was thinking, but it, that's why songwriters don't like to really interpret their songs, because if it's a good song, then what is it about? You tell me what it's about. What's it about to you? That's the important thing.
Resonates. In the last few years, you've been very aggressively, from what I've watched of you performing and writing and being out in the universe, working with other people. I don't know if it's writing together or just recording with a broad selection of the Kansas City region's musical community.
It's not been writing together.
It's not been right.
I don't have very good luck. I've tried it a few times and haven't had so much luck writing together. But I've always, and it's been more than the last few years, it's probably been the last 15 to 20 years. I would always meet new people. I would go out and see other people. If I liked the band, I would assault them and say, "You got to come in, and we're going to do 3 songs. We're going to do 2 songs. We're going to do 3 songs together." I'll show them. It's kind of like saying, "Oh, okay, let's go out and shoot some buckets today," but I can never hit the baskets. But I can do this, and so I've learned a whole lot by playing with other musicians, and I think it's been fun for them too. We've had a blast, and I've recorded with over 200 people in the all in the Kansas City or the surrounding area, or mostly from around here.
Well, and again, I run with a lot of the music folk in town, and people mention working with you. It's been a little bit of a glue. I would like to tell you is that one of whether you meant to or not, it's formed kind of a unity in some of the community.
Good.
That's really it's surprising and wonderful. It makes Kansas City pretty unique.
Yeah. I have wanted partly to show that everyone can exchange ideas and get together, and there are places where the bands are competitive with each other and all that.
Yeah.
And I think the thing to do is for to push the whole thing higher, with everyone bringing their own skills to the
When
table.
you've done that here, when you could have done it, and usually the pressures are to do this in Nashville, probably for the genre that you've carved out and been working in most of the time I'm aware of you. Challenges, that a good decision, that a bad decision? Is it?
Well, I think some of the people who, if they're watching this, who also know me, know that I did all this music stuff on the side. I was an immigration lawyer for many, many years, for 30, 35 years, and and was really busy with it. I taught it at the law school. I probably represented, I don't know how many people, maybe 10,000, probably 20,000 people, I don't know, over that time. And I had a very busy practice, and I liked doing that too. And I think they were a good balance for each other. They were very different, but I was not ready to throw it all in with music, and I wasn't ready to throw it all in with law either.
Yep.
So
They used to have two words, vocation and avocation.
Yeah,
The things you
yeah,
loved and the
yeah,
things that you did to eat.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
well, I mean, just the thing, if, 20 years from now in the magical bus, when everybody's listening to the Howard Stern greatest hits CD, what are the three songs that you've written that you wish people would pay attention to still?
Oh,
You can stop with one, it's okay.
well, ones that other people I know have liked. One is called "Play Me a Slow One."
Okay.
There's one called "Calling Robert Burns," which is invoking the spirit of a great early Western songwriter.
Make that a Burns Night original. You
Huh?
have to start getting that, spreading that across the globe. And
Yeah.
make it,
Let's see. Uh, there's there's one called "Sentimental." There's one called "The Wrestler." Um, I've written a lot of songs that they're all my babies, so it's hard for me to pick and choose.
anybody fun covered? Anybody that I mean, I guess the big question would be, if Taylor Swift decides to record one of your songs as a cover, is that you're going to become a Swiftie and put on the glitter and?
No, I'm gonna put on a Travis Kelce jersey is what I'm gonna do, and see if I can fool her for a night.
Oh, my, when you just mentioned it was where I was going to go with this next was beside music, you've been an attorney, and I'm familiar. You've already mentioned it was an immigration attorney. Was that your first love? Is that what you really studied and
Well,
came out?
I started becoming, I don't know if you'd say radicalized or politically conscious in a left sort of way. Back in high school, somehow I had some teachers that started me off where in high school I was reading the autobiography of Malcolm X and Black Like Me, and then Iceberg Slim, if you know who that is,
Absolutely.
and some of and then in college, uh, I went to a school in St. Louis, Washington, U that was fairly progressive, and these were in the political hippie days. So these were days when music was very important, but politics of the left was very important. And so then when I got out of undergraduate school, I went to law school because those were still the last days of the Warren Court, where lawyers could go in and make a difference with the Supreme Court and could fight for civil rights, First Amendment, uh, you know, prison law reform, all kinds of things. And so I got out of law school and formed a group with 9 others. There were 10 of us. We formed the Kansas City Law Collective, and we did what some people would call movement work. We were the legal arm in Kansas City for. We spent 3 years fighting over prison conditions at Leavenworth Penitentiary, trying to get better conditions and stuff there. We worked with battered women. We worked with the First Amendment. I worked 40 years ago. I was working on the issue of drug law reform, marijuana. I was the head of Normal here for a couple of years, which was I took the Missouri's marijuana laws to the Missouri Supreme Court. So it was a really interesting and fun time to be a lawyer because, there were the people who were the the group that worked on prison stuff, or the people that worked on Native American stuff, or the Westport Free Health Clinic people, all these different groups. But our group, we got to work with all of them. So all these people had their own individual things, and we got to see the whole panoply of stuff that you would, I guess, call counterculture or counter legal culture or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that for 8 years. And then I just needed to go out on my own, and I fell into immigration law. It never occurred to me that I would do immigration law until I started doing it, and it just clicked in. I come from a family of immigrants at the grandparent level, and
We all did.
yeah, that's
Well,
right.
most, I'd say.
Yeah, most of us. And um, another nice thing was I didn't have to deal with other lawyers. I just had to fight the government on stuff, and not dealing with the lawyers was just fine with me. And so then I became an immigration lawyer, and not many people, at least in Kansas City, very few were doing it at the time. And so it wasn't just something, when you say one thing to make money and another thing to the avocation. I never made any money for a long time anyway, but
I'm a
eventually,
bookstore owner. I get it.
yeah. But so I really liked immigration law. I really liked helping people who got caught up in something that was bigger than them that they didn't know how to do, and I knew how to help them, shepherd them through that process. So
I mean, those issues
yeah,
are front page today.
yeah,
What do you think
yeah.
about how it's changed from them to now? And
It always has been a fight. The people within the immigration service, people who are drawn to work there, are by and large, a lot of them are good people, but they're drawn to that because they have an exclusionary kind of thought about it, where I'm like inclusionary.
yep.
And there's always been problems. As soon as you figured out a way to help one group of people, immigration would come up with some new thing, a new regulation, or the Congress would come up with a new law to shut things off there. But you could help these people. Like for example, I did a lot of work with political asylum, with asylees from El Salvador when things were going crazy there, with a lot of Iranians when Khomeini and the fundamentalists, there were Iranian students here who were in great danger if they went back there. But it could be different groups through the years, and
It's such a human issue, man. I mean, I watched, just recently, you watched children pulled from their parents by the party of family values, separated from
yeah,
them, put in cages.
terrible.
And now
Terrible.
now you're in Texas and you're watching razor wire in a river. And I mean, I suppose I can entertain the thought that people, you know, you just can't have anybody and everybody coming into a fixed area. But I mean, the setting up a system that's deliberately designed to kill other human beings,
Yeah,
particularly people who are
yeah.
coming here because they believe in something of the American dream and they're trying to escape such horrific situations.
Horrific situations for themselves and for their kids.
Yeah.
And so you ask yourself, like, if it was you and your kids on the other side of the line, what would you do for your own kids?
Yep.
Would you doom them to maybe gangs being killed, or would you cross the line to try to save your kids? And I'll tell you something else that I think why it's such and it is a problem. It's a problem here in the U.S., but it's a problem worldwide because we're going from 5 billion to 6 billion to 7 billion people in 20 years. We have the same amount of space, and we have so many more people. It's not something that will ever go away. There's always been migration before it was called that, and you know.
Well, now you have the pressures of climate change forcing migration from
That's going to
new
be a big one.
areas.
That's going to be a big one. Yeah.
Fresh water is going to be a scenario,
Yeah.
and don't want to leave this and go back, but you said you worked with Normal, and I was reading today's paper that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, put a slight kibosh on the movement towards legalization of psychedelics in California. And he wasn't kiboshing the idea. He was kiboshing. He goes, until we have some mechanisms for treatment and people who come into these. Any substance has some risk factors in it. How do we take care of those? It's a different world. I mean, I grew up. I'm a little bit younger than you, but I grew up going, nobody's going to ever legalize weed, and you spend your whole life looking over your shoulder. Now we have it, and I don't care anymore. That's
that's funny, because when I was doing it, which was literally, it must have been 4 years ago, close to that, it seemed so eminently clear that I said to myself, it's going to be any day or any, it's obvious, because to me at the time, and what I felt was, I just wanted to be one of the people for my generation that was trying to look out for the people in my generation. And my generation, we smoked marijuana, and the generation above us drank, and their particular drug was more harmful to their own bodies and resulted in more,
car wrecks,
for, that kind of stuff. And so I thought it would happen overnight, and it didn't. It took, just now it's starting to be worked out. Although, there's still things. I mean, no one wants to have, fentanyl available on in every schoolyard. So there's things to still work out.
It's hard to say. I mean, usually, in my view, is that you get problems with everything's got ups and downs to it, and you have problems, and you deal with having a car kills people. So you figure out as smart, responsible individuals what our rules are and guidance for using something that can kill somebody. And then when something happens, you have the appropriate mechanisms out there to take care of them.
That's right. Yeah.
So you did the work. You were with the Casey Law Collective. You still keep up with any of those guys? They still around, guys and gals? I don't want to be presumptive there.
It was 5 men and 5 women, and one of them, Fred Slough, my best old pal. We have lunch every Tuesday, and we play poker every Thursday. So I see him. Marcia Walsh, one of them, became the first woman lawyer in Kansas City. Kathy Keneally, our beloved Kathy, who she worked with the Lawyers Guild and did a lot of work with Rose Brooks and Battered Women's Center stuff, and she passed on a while back. Albert Reeder was one of our people. He became the Jackson County prosecutor, and he likewise died some time ago. And one of our guys became the professor in the law library at Yale, and everyone did something kind of interesting in their own way.
You wrote 1,000 songs, 1,400 songs.
1,400, yeah. They all succeeded in law, and I went off. I took the wrong fork in the road, I guess.
You say you're keeping up with the folks. Is there anything that catches? I mean, I know you guys are probably not in the thick of the battle like you used to be, but is there things on the horizon here that the next crew of lawyers and socially conscious individuals should be?
Well, I know that Gina, whose last name I forget, who worked with Fred, has been active in workers' rights, and she started a program that was working on the $15 per hour thing, and is gone from that to expand on workers' issues, and obviously stuff related to the climate, to reining in the corporations, who we now know it's proven that they knew 40 years ago.
They knew, just like tobacco.
And tobacco, and the people who pushed sugar, the sugar industry, and tried to tell everyone it was fat and not sugar. Yeah.
It's stark. From all this cross back and forth on this stuff, how much of what you did legally and the issues that caught your attention as a lawyer involved in these kind of hot button issues informed your art? I mean, did you pull?
To some extent, yeah. To some, I mean, really, I have. When I was really writing a lot of songs, I was writing, 2 or 3 or 4 a week, sometimes 2 or 3 a day, sometimes, and I would write them about different kinds of stuff, and for sure there's some songs that would address the issues, but I really wanted to keep those separate. I wrote probably more songs about love, good love, bad love, crazy love.
Love is good stuff.
Yeah,
Man. That's why we're here. That's part of it.
Yeah. But
what is? I mean, there's a big discussion right now in the national theater community about declining audiences, and there's a lot of reasons they're giving for it. And as the discussions, I'm following it, and some of it's ticket prices, which is a legitimate scenario, but some of it they're saying is that anymore there's not, to go to live theater is almost like having to go to a lecture or a dressing down. There's no love, there's no fun, there's no, that isn't got it. And I understand there's a lot of important stuff going on, but there's always been important stuff going on. And Jesus says, let them wash the feet every now and then. You got to take a little something out of this
that's
life.
right. Yeah.
But well, I mean, I'm getting close to this. I remember a few years ago, Roger Waters was in town, and some people got really mad because he was going off on Trump from the stage. And the guy's like, I wish this guy would just get back to the music and leave this politics stuff alone. And you're like going, have you ever listened to Pink Floyd from day one? What the hell they were talking about?
Money.
Exactly. I mean, all of it. Do you think modern songwriters and artists have a responsibility to address the cultural issues, or?
Oh, I think everybody does, I guess. It's hard for me to say, partly because I felt like I addressed it plenty in my early days as a lawyer, and I think a lot of my songs, some of my songs are just kind of funny type, or meant to be funny anyway, and I think it's difficult because a lot of times when, like for sure, I wrote a song recently that had a particular verse that people who are of the kind of political persuasion that, say, you and I are on relate to. But to me, it's no pleasure to be preaching to the choir, if you know what I mean. And so for me to say the things that I believe, if it's just going to create division, I'm not interested in division. I'm interested in the human experience, and that we're all, human, and there's more that connects us than divides us.
Yep, I agree with you on that one. There's one of my favorite songwriters is a guy named James McMurtry today, and he's not a choir preacher. He's an evangelist, but he's able to talk about some of the hottest issues in a way that isn't it's so designed to inflame. It's more designed to make you think about them honestly again.
I'll tell you something about James McMurtry. Is that I have, although I've always been just a local musician, but I have been lucky enough to open for a few known people, and I know who James McMurtry is. But I've had 3 or 4 or 5 people through the years say that I opened for him, and they've seen me in the show, and I have no recollection of that.
It could be good or bad. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's either a really good night or. Well, I really appreciate you coming to Prospero's Pit and talk a little bit about an entire career of music and art and important work in our community legally. I think we start wrapping. I want to end it with like three music questions and bring this thing home. What's the best show you've ever seen?
Well, I've seen a lot of Bob Dylan shows, and I love his shows. And I would say some of the best shows I've seen have been his, and I couldn't narrow down except to say because I like his music so much. I also remember a show in St. Louis with the Impressions, but people get ready, there's a train a coming, and
Didn't Rod Stewart butcher that song?
yeah, maybe, yeah, he probably did, and I always liked John Prine's shows, yeah.
He's great. You've played around here and gigged out a long time. Any thoughts about your favorite Kansas City venue?
It used to, for playing, now I would say 2 places in the old days. The Grand Emporium.
God, what a venue.
Yeah. And as a favorite venue, both to see other groups all the time, and then we played there. We had at one point we had a matinee there every Wednesday for a year and a half. I like that. I also liked playing at Davies Uptown Rambler a lot. Just a funky, smoking and bottles clinking and all that kind of stuff.
PBR.
Yeah, I like that place. And a little later, the Record Bar.
Yep.
And I've played Knuckleheads, I guess, 4 or 5 times in the big stage and inside and in the Gospel Lounge. And of the places that I've played now, I think the Record Bar and Knuckleheads are really a pleasure for musicians to play, just in the way they treat musicians and all that.
Those are great places too. I mean, the Tulipana and those guys have done a great job in both the locations I've seen the Record Bar at.
I tell you something though, when I look back, and I cannot any longer remember all the kind of places we played, but we've played weddings and we've played funerals. I played grocery store in people's front yard and people's backyard, and all the clubs and
hope they ain't throwing stuff at you to get you off stage.
Oh yeah, people.
Good. Well, my last question: any thoughts you want to leave the next crop of writers and musicians coming up behind you?
Mm-hmm. Is do the things that you think will increase both your inspiration and your craftsmanship. And I think that you need both. And I think the brain is wired that when you're younger, you can rely more on inspiration, and the stuff that you come up with is more original. Just like in mathematics, mathematicians are done by the time they're 25 or 26. And then at some point, like right now, I still write songs, and I'm like a pitcher who no longer has a fastball, but I've got my curve and my change of pace now, and I've learned those. And if you want to have any staying power as a musician, you need to study how other deconstruct songs that you like, find out why they work, and incorporate that into your style.
Great stuff. Anything else you want to talk about that we didn't talk about that we've overlooked, or?
No, I think you've covered from A to Z.
All right. Well, thank you again. I really
Oh
appreciate
yeah,
you coming
yeah,
and sharing. Thanks for the music over the
yeah.
years.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
go home and put on that box set tonight.
yeah.
I
Oh
think I
yeah,
still
yeah,
have that. So,
yeah. Do you?
yep,
Yeah,
I still enjoy it. It's funny how things go missing, though.
yeah.
We got this. Somebody brought one in and it had, I don't know, just a few weeks ago, they brought a copy in, but it had like only two of the discs in it. It
Well,
had the box and everything was missing, but I still got all of mine.
cool.
Well, thank you, Howard. Really appreciate it.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you,
That's it.
Will.
You want to play a song?
I'll play a song.
Excellent. Even better. The man brought his axe in, and I was like going, yeah. We'll cut out this quiet spot here for you guys later. And I don't know if this will help, but I'm going to point this over that way too, and Danny will figure out how to mix this thing.
Yeah.
Danny Mac Staten has helped us be our producer and our filmographer tonight, and we want to say thanks.
Okay. And then you can use this to fill in any. This song here is one of those ones that I mentioned. This is called "Calling Robert Burns," and this was sort of invoking the spirit of a great songwriter. I mean, I know you know this. He wrote "Old Lang Syne," and they say he wrote that song about when a laddie leads a lassie coming through the rye, and scores of more songs. The streets are flooded in Memory City. I'm drowning in the tears of my own self-pity. I've been living in a prison of my own construction, with a diamond ceiling and quicksand suction. Oh, the king and queen were born to govern, but the queen ran off when the king got stubborn. His loneliness couldn't be self-imposed. My mind's made up, the subject's closed. Oh, I might die now and I might die later, at the cold North Pole or the hot equator. But the time and the temperature do not matter, if she's where I can look right at her. And we're calling Robert Burns in Scotland, with a cup for Old Lang Syne. From the wasteland of the heartland, where we're coming through the rye. Mm-hmm. 'Cause I carry a love big enough for two. The one is me, the other you. Yeah, the Statue of Liberty turned around when China took her Great Wall down. Oh, they let you live and they make you die. And they show you where, but they won't say why. But you can put it right on my epitaph that I made you cry and I made you laugh. And we're calling Robert Burns in Scotland with a cup for old lang syne. From the wasteland of the heartland, where we're coming through the ride. From the wasteland of the heartland, where we're coming through the ride.
All right, Iceberg, thank you very much.
Thank you, Will.